I'm Dr. Deepak. Today we will discuss a very important topic from USMLE Step 1, that is vasculitis. So what is basically vasculitis? Vasculitis refers to a heterogeneous group of disorders which are characterized by the inflammatory destruction of the blood vessels. And once the blood vessels become inflamed, they are liable to get occluded, or they may rupture, or they may get develop the thrombosis, and ultimately the caliber of the affected blood vessel will decrease, and that will lead to a decreased ability to deliver the oxygen and the other nutrients to the respective tissues and the organ. So, vasculitis can present in the form of inflammatory blood vessel destruction. The vasculitis can be classified based on the size of the blood vessel involved, the distribution of the particular blood vessel, and the severity of the disease. And as far as the signs and symptoms of the vasculitis is concerned, usually the vasculitis has a very wide range of clinical signs and symptoms. It can present simply as a body rash, or it can present itself in the form of multi-system disorder, or in the form of a clinical syndrome. Here you can see the vasculitis has been classified based on the size of the blood vessels. Okay, large vessel vasculitis, then there is medium vessel vasculitis, and the small vessel vasculitis. The large vessel vasculitis can be of two types based on the granulomatous inflammation and the age of presentation, right? Giant cell arteritis and Takayasu's arteritis. These are the two examples of large vessel vasculitis. These are the two important clinical entities that we have to study in the USMLE Step 1. The medium vessel vasculitis, on the other hand, they can be necrotizing arteritis without the MCLN syndrome or with MCLN syndrome. What is MCLN? MCLN is the mucocutaneous lymph node. MCLN, that stands for mucocutaneous syndrome, right? Mucocutaneous syndrome, and examples of them are polyarteritis nodosa and Kawasaki disease. Then last one is a small vessel vasculitis. A small vessel vasculitis, there are various examples of the same, and we broadly classify the small vessel vasculitis depending upon the pathophysiology, right? It is because of immune complex deposition, or there is paucity of the immune complex, right? So immune complex mediated small vessel vasculitis may be like cryoglobulin vasculitis, HS purpura, or IgA dominant vasculitis, and vasculitis associated with the systemic lupus erythematosus or rheumatoid arthritis, or maybe the other sources of immune complex. So this is known as the other IMCX immune complex mediated vasculitis, right? And there may be paucity of the immune complex or paucity of the vascular antibody. They are usually associated with the ANCA, that is anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody. So this type of vasculitis are usually associated with some granulomatous inflammation or some allergic reaction or eosinophilia, and accordingly we broadly classify them into three types. And the examples of them are microscopic polyangiitis, granulomatosis with polyangiitis, and eosinophilia with granulomatosis with polyangiitis, also known as Churg-Strauss syndrome. We will see the classification later on also. So, as I said, the vasculitis is mediated by inflammation. Inflammation is stimulated by pathological activation of the immune system, right? Which, when inappropriately, targets the patient's own vascular tissue. So it is basically autoimmune disease. Vasculitis can either arise from the primary condition, or it may be a part of some other disease process. But if it is left untreated, it can lead to loss of the blood vessel integrity. It can lead to the bleeding, right? It can lead to the tissue ischemia, or it can lead to organ necrosis if there is persistent decreased blood supply leading to the irreversible damage, right? The clinical presentation of vasculitis, it is highly variable. Keep it in mind, it is highly variable. There is no specific sign and symptom which can help you clinch the diagnosis or can help you coming to the perfect diagnosis for the particular vasculitis. It largely depends on the size of the blood vessel involved and the location of the blood vessel involved. Some vasculitis involve the large blood vessels, some involve the small blood vessels. If a patient presents with a systemic illness or ischemia of one or more organ system that cannot otherwise be explained, okay, consider vasculitis as a possible underlying cause. What I mean to say is that you should bear in mind that vasculitis is a kind of diagnosis of exclusion, right? It is a diagnosis of exclusion many times, diagnosis of exclusion. It is not that easy to diagnose the vasculitis simply based on the generalized or systemic clinical features, because vasculitis is diffuse inflammatory disease, so the markers of the inflammation will be elevated or raised. So specifically ESR and CRP, right, they are elevated, but again, as I said, the raised ESR, raised CRP, they are not pathognomic feature of the particular vasculitis, right? They are common to all kinds of vasculitis. Additional serological test, some additional serological test or biopsy of the affected vessel or other organs involved, that may be used to make a more specific diagnosis. So elevated ESR, elevated CRP plus some serological test or biopsy, right, that will help you in reaching to the diagnosis. The presence of inflammatory WBC or leukocyte in the vessel wall, that is the defining feature of the vasculitis. You have to remember, this is important. Defining feature of vasculitis is presence of WBCs in the blood vessel wall, affected vascular wall. Apart from that, because as we know, inflammation, once the inflammation is triggered, it will lead to reactive damage to the blood vessel wall, that will lead to bleeding, that will lead to occlusion of the blood vessel lumen, that will lead to decreased blood supply to the respective organ or tissue, and that will cause the ischemia, and if ischemia is prolonged over a period of time, it will lead to permanent cell death or necrosis due to reduced diameter of the vessel lumen. Other characteristic histological feature is fibrinoid necrosis and granuloma formation. Even though they are the other histological features, they help in reaching to the perfect diagnosis sometimes, fibrinoid necrosis or granuloma formation. We say the vasculitis is associated with granulomatous inflammation or vasculitis is associated with fibrinoid necrosis. These are important points to remember. Then what is fibrinoid necrosis? We have seen there are different types of necrosis in the general pathology, like coagulative necrosis, liquefactive necrosis in the brain, or the fatty necrosis. Similarly, there is fibrinoid necrosis, a type of necrosis which is usually confined to the blood vessel, that is associated with a severe vasculitis, when the complex of antigen and antibody, they are deposited in the blood vessel wall and they mediate the vessel wall destruction. So fibrinoid necrosis, usually fibrinoid necrosis results in what? The thickening of the blood vessel wall, and the blood vessel wall become bright pink in appearance on the hematoxylin and eosin staining. So characteristic feature is immune complex deposition and along with the fibrin deposition, because of the vessels, blood vessel become leaky in nature, so fibrin comes out, and that is responsible for the characteristic bright pink appearance of the histological slide on HE staining. So fibrinoid necrosis can be seen where? It can be seen in the lupus, part of SLE, can be seen in polyarteritis nodosa, serum sickness, and few other non-immune vascular diseases such as in the severe preeclampsia or eclampsia and emergent hypertension, right? Okay. Then what is granuloma? Granuloma, I used to remember by a mnemonic. Granuloma is composed of gel. What is gel? Gel is the giant cell, right? Giant cell, epithelioid cell, and the L is lymphocyte. Simple, right? We have again seen this granuloma formation as a part of chronic inflammation, right? It's a pattern of chronic inflammation in general pathology. We have studied in the general pathology, the pattern of chronic inflammation, and there is the granuloma. Granuloma is a nodular collection of epithelioid or modified activated macrophages plus giant cells. There are different types of giant cells developed during the inflammatory process, and they are characteristics of different types of vasculitis, like giant cell arteritis, which we are going to study today, also known as temporal arteritis, then Takayasu's arteritis, then granulomatosis with polyangiitis, that is also known as Wegener's or Wegener's granulomatosis, eosinophilic granulomatosis with polyangiitis, also called Churag-Strauss syndrome, and focal granulomatosis inflammation. Right? These are the examples of vasculitis associated with granulomatous inflammation or granuloma formation. What are the basic mechanisms behind the different vasculitis? There are 4 basic mechanisms. Okay, you have to remember 4 basic mechanisms. Okay, we will briefly discuss these 4 mechanisms because these are not very important from the MCQ point of view in the MLEs. Right, the most important is the immune complex formation. The first one is immune complex. It is formed by obviously antibody bound to the antigen, and when the antigen antibody complex is formed, they result in the they get deposited in the wall of the blood vessels and activate the complement system. Again, we have studied the complement system in our immunology. Complement system has 3 different paths: classic pathway, alternative pathway, leptin pathway. Ultimately, the final product or the component of the complement which is released is C5a. If you remember, C5a is very important because it is the most potent chemotactic factor, right? Chemotactic factor, I will say chemotactic factor, C5a. Apart from C5a, there is C3a, C4a, all A's. There is a perfect mnemonic in the first head that all A's, C3a, 4a and 5a, they are also involved in anaphylaxis, right? Anaphylaxis. And anaphylaxis starts from A, and all A's, C3a, C4a and C5a, they are involved in anaphylaxis. Apart from that, there is C3b, which is an important opsonization factor. It is an opsonin. It enhances the phagocytosis. Apart from the C3b, there is one more important potent opsonin, that is IgG. Okay, we will not go in detail in the immunology, but here in the immune complex formation activates the complement system, and complement system, especially the C5a, attracts the neutrophil to the site of vascular damage. Okay, and so neutrophils are called to the area and they release the lysosomal enzymes. Again, we have studied in the immunology that once the neutrophils comes to the site of damage or inflammation, they trigger what is called as respiratory burst. If you remember, respiratory burst is associated with a sequence of various enzymes, right? These enzymes are NADPH oxidase, then superoxide dismutase, then there is myeloperoxidase, and then there is generation of the reactive oxygen species that kills the pathogens, right? So in the same way, here also in the pathophysiology of vasculitis, the neutrophil works. Notably, many autoimmune disorders like SLE present with the immune complex mediated vasculitis. For example, we will see in the SLE, in the case of SLE, there is deposition of anti-DNA immune complex, anti-DNA antibody. Okay, they form a complex with the antigen, our own body antigen or our own body tissue, that is the renal glomeruli. In the renal glomeruli, there is deposition of anti-DNA immune complex that leads to development of the lupus nephritis. Here in this diagram, this is an immunofluorescent picture which depicts how the granular deposition of the immune complex is there in the case of lupus nephritis. Okay, this is a lupus nephritis, very important clinical entity, lupus nephritis. Here, lupus nephritis, it is an immunofluorescence picture. Most commonly, lupus nephritis presents with diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis. Another important clue for the diagnosis of lupus nephritis we will study in the renal system. Hypersensitivity, one example was the SLE for the immune complex mediated vasculitis. Another is hypersensitivity reaction to the drugs, for example penicillin. Penicillin is one of the most common offending antimicrobial agent in the hypersensitivity reaction, and here we know that penicillin binds to penicillin binding protein, right? Here what happens, the autoantibody targets the drugs which are bound to the proteins or the drug themselves, sometimes the drugs themselves, resulting in the immune complex formation and their deposition and further activation of complement and attraction of the neutrophil through chemotaxis to the site of vascular damage. What is the treatment of the hypersensitivity reaction to the drug? That is simply stopping the drug, offending drug, that is the curative action. The another way is anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody pathophysiologic mechanism for vasculitis. Very important. Anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody or ANCA is a group of antibody, right, which is directed against the component of the neutrophil primary granules, right? Neutrophil primary granules, monocyte lysosomes, endothelial cells, right? In the past, these ANCA were classified as P ANCA and C ANCA depending upon their distribution inside the cell. If it is found in the cytoplasm of the cell, it is called cytoplasmic ANCA, or if it is found around the nucleus, it is called perinuclear ANCA. But now they are commonly classified based on the antigen, right? The antigen that they target, and it is important to know antigen. Which antigen? The C ANCA, the cytoplasmic ANCA, they target the proteinase 3. Proteinase 3. What is proteinase 3? Proteinase 3 is an important component of neutrophil granule, right? So it is known as anti-proteinase 3 ANCA. Similarly, the P ANCA, right? P ANCA targets myeloperoxidase enzyme, which is found in the lysosomal granules. Right now, I discussed about the myeloperoxidase enzyme as a part of respiratory burst or oxidative burst mediated by the neutrophil. This myeloperoxidase is important enzyme which has an important role in the generation of reactive oxygen species inside the phagolysosome, right? Phagolysosome, right? So reactive oxygen species. If there is deficiency of this myeloperoxidase, congenital deficiency of myeloperoxidase, that can result in the chronic infection, inflammation, right? So this is another pathophysiologic mechanism for vasculitis. Precise role of ANCA is not known. What is the precise role of ANCA in the pathogenesis of vasculitis? We don't know. Okay, but ANCA has a diagnostic role, diagnostic importance. Presence of a specific ANCA, P ANCA or C ANCA, can be used to distinguish between the different types of vasculitis, right? For example, we say C ANCA, okay, C ANCA positive vasculitis. Example is Wegener's granulomatosis. We say P ANCA positive vasculitis. So what are the examples of P ANCA vasculitis? These are PCM. What is M? Microscopic polyangiitis. What is C? Chirag-Strauss syndrome. What is P? P is primary sclerosing cholangitis, right? These are example of the P ANCA positive vasculitis, and C ANCA positive vasculitis is Wegener's granulomatosis. We will discuss one by one all these vasculitis in our next video. The presence of the specific ANCA will help in distinguishing the type of vasculitis, right? Okay, we will see the immunofluorescence diagram of the P ANCA and C ANCA. Can you guess which one is P ANCA and which one is C ANCA? Easy. C ANCA is circular. See here. C ANCA is circular, right? And P ANCA is globular, right? It is globular. So this is P ANCA. This is your P ANCA, and this is your C ANCA, right? Immunofluorescence picture. Okay. What are the main types of immune-mediated vasculitis and how they are treated? See, we have already seen in our earlier slides. There is we will briefly overview the different types of vasculitis, and we will begin with a diagram of blood vessel categories involved in the different types of vasculitis. Okay, different types of immune-mediated vasculitis categorized based on the size of the vessels involved. That is the most common classification. We have already seen the classification. Again, this picture has been taken from the USMLE RX BRICS. Okay. Here is a large vessel vasculitis, first category, which obviously involves a large blood vessels like aorta and large arteries. Example is giant cell arteritis and Takayasu arteritis, and they are associated with granulomatous inflammation. Medium vessel vasculitis, which involve the medium-sized blood vessels like arteries, small arteries and arterioles, okay, specifically small arteries, they are polyarteritis nodosa and Kawasaki disease. And the small vessel vasculitis, which involves basically the arterioles, capillaries and venules, okay, the larger vascular bed, they can be classified into two types: immune complex mediated and the immune posse-immune small vessel vasculitis. Okay, usually the posse-immune small vessel vasculitis, they are associated with some ANCA, P ANCA or C ANCA. Immune complex mediated are usually a part of the bigger picture, like some connective tissue disorders like SLE or HS purpura, that is IgA vasculitis, anti-GBM antibody related vasculitis, that is Goodpasture syndrome, and cryoglobulin. Okay guys, thank you. This was the end of our discussion for the topic vasculitis, the introduction. In the next video, we will cover large vessel vasculitis, that is giant cell arteritis and Takayasu's arteritis, along with the MCQs taken from the USMLE RX breaks, and mostly the topics content will be covered from USMLE RX and EMBOSS. If you like my video, kindly like and subscribe and follow the channel, and any sort of suggestions, comments or advice from your side or any queries is most welcome. Thank you.